Welcome to the Plant Trainers Podcast, where we're helping people improve their quality of life through nutrition and fitness. And now, your hosts, nutrition and wellness coaches, international speakers, Adam and Shoshana Chaim.
Hey, I'm Adam Chaim.
And I'm Shoshana Chaim, and we are
Propelled by Plants. Today we bring to you episode 450. Be a plant-based woman warrior with Anne and Jane Esselstyn.
Wow, 450. In this episode of the Plant Trainers Podcast, we talk with Jane and Anne Esselstyn about how to be a plant-based warrior. You probably know Jane and Anne already. They're so much fun to talk to, and I give them both a lot of credit. Can you imagine living next door to your mom or your daughter and working with them all day long? But they do amazing at it, and they're amazing people. So I'm sure that it's very easy for them, although they do give away a little bit of secrets that it can be challenging at times. You'll enjoy hearing them both compliment and riff on each other and discuss the benefits of a whole food plant-based diet and their new book, Plant-Based Woman Warrior.
Anne is a relentless, energetic, and creative advocate for the plant-based whole food way of life. She's devoted herself to inventing recipes to prevent and reverse heart disease in support of the research of her husband, Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn. Jane is a fresh and charismatic voice on the plant-based whole food diet. She brings her perspective and passion as a longtime health and sexuality educator to creating on-ramps to the plant-based way of life. Jane is an avid and inventive designer of plant-based recipes and the co-author of the Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease cookbook with her next-door neighbor and mom, Anne. Together, they've written their newest book, Be a Plant-Based Woman Warrior. This is such a fun episode. We hope you enjoy it.
I'm sick and tired of feeling sick and tired is something that I'm hearing over and over again from women who are coming to me saying, I think I'm doing all the things right. There must be something else out there for me, Shoshana. Please help. And their gratitude after they've started working with me is just incredible, and I love it, and I'm so humbled by it. If you'd like a 20-minute free consultation to see how I can help you above and beyond everything you're doing now, please reach out at info@planttrainers.com and I'll hook you up.
And now for a moment of gratitude.
The weather has just been so amazing here in Toronto, and being able to walk with the dog every day, doing our morning walk and then going out again in the evening has just been a wonderful addition to my day. I'm so grateful that we have this dog and that wonderful weather to walk in.
And I'm grateful for these last few days and being able to spend time with family before the next couple weeks are done. Summer's over and it's back to school time.
Jane and Anne Esselstyn, thank you so much for joining us on the Plant Trainers Podcast today.
Well, it's so great to be here. Thank you.
We're lucky.
Yeah,
We're lucky.
We're lucky. You're lucky. Everybody listening is lucky because they're in for a treat for today's show. And before we start, we wanted to know if you have a moment of gratitude that you'd like to share with us. Anne, would you like to go first?
I am eternally grateful to my husband, who really is the instigator of all of this and of the good health that we have had and our family has had. But I'm also very grateful to Jane, who is next door and has been the leader in all our recent events and in this book, Be a Plant-Based Woman Warrior.
Well, that's very nice. Thank you for sharing. Jane, what are you grateful for today?
Now I get a little bit.
Are
You demanding, ready?
you going to reciprocate? No pressure.
That's the advantage of being first.
Well, she sort of stole my thunder, if you will, because I am, to use your exact words, I'm eternally grateful for the family I was born into. I mean, complete luck of, how we're all born, wherever we're born. There's no making sense of that. But I'm so grateful that I landed where I did with the parents I have, and that I get to work with them. And they haven't stopped going. I mean, they're like 700 and 800 years old now. And I'm having fun with them.
That's a compliment.
People think we're twins. And I'm like, bring it on. If I have this much energy.
Wait, her hair looks whiter than mine.
Oh, brighter you mean?
It does.
Brighter. I got lightning for hair. I love my lightning. But I am eternally grateful that I'm so lucky that this is where it landed. And I mean, you're close with your family, like being able to have a relationship that doesn't end with your parents, but that continues to grow and connect and grow and connect and stay together. It's just so rich. So I'm so grateful for whatever stars aligned that I landed with the parents I have and the family I have.
It's definitely something special to be able to not only hang out with your family all the time, but have that connection and relationship with them where you can continue to work with them 24 hours a day. I mean, really, there's a lot of families that would find that very challenging and struggle and not want to do that. So there's a lot of gratitude around being able to have that amazing, strong relationship with your close family. So it's very special.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So talk about family. How many generations are there of plant-based eaters in your family right now?
So glad you asked that question out of the gate, because that's like the whole premise behind this book is that we are, I mean, the whole book is really an ode to my mom, and we'll maybe get into that more later, but we are 3 generations deep into being plant-based eaters. And
so we have 4 children and 10 grandchildren. And everybody is plant-based.
And everyone's partners. So there's 20 of us total who are plant-based eaters.
And in response to your question, one of the things in our cookbook that we did was ask each one of our 10 grandchildren what they thought about eating plant-based, what their opinion. Now, the ages went at the time from 7 to 27. And some of the comments
are hilarious.
Were hilarious.
I'll find it.
And my favorite of all is the 7-year-old who said, "If you eat meat, you die."
That sounds like our kids.
Yeah.
Mommy, why do the other parents want their kids to die at school? They send them to school with all that food, they once said to us.
And then another one that I loved a lot was another of the at the time, the 8-year-old. And she said, Jane, she said,
11-year-old.
She was 8 at the time, without being plant-based, I can't imagine how I'd live. I'd open the refrigerator and see things like chicken wrapped in plastic and just feel like, what happened? And then, anyway.
And what about some of the older ones? How are they?
Great. One of the older ones that I thought was very powerful was this one. I mean, they were all great. Just great. This was plant-based makes me feel free and has saved me from the emotionally turbulent diet of restriction so many friends in their 20s are caught in.
As a 22-year-old
female.
And
then as one of our 20-year-olds, it checks every box, not killing anything, great for the planet, not burdened by being sick. You feel good. It's the future. And that was Zeb, who was 20 at the time.
The bubble in the throat. All right. So we all 10 of those comments, but they're all, fine with it. Well, your kids are fine with it.
Our kids are fine with it too. They've actually, you can kind of hear the difference in some of those comments. Some of them are more plant-based oriented and some of them are more vegan oriented, and definitely a mix of both. And, when Adam and I speak about, how we live our lives, we definitely talk about it more from a plant-based health point of view, but our kids have such a deeper connection with animals and the planet. I can't say that we do, but I think that that's stronger for them than the health aspect. For them, it's just what it is. And I think it's so interesting how everybody will every personality will express themselves differently, but every different age group will focus in on different things. And it might be interesting in 5 years and 10 years to go back and ask everybody the same question and see how their answers have evolved as well.
Exactly.
How do you respond to that comment? Like, eating meat, you're going to die. Or like if the kids say like, no, because our kids said that to us, like, why are the parents sending that kind of food with their kids to school? Do they want them to die earlier? Like, how do you respond to something like that?
Well, just this is the way that what we value and how we feel. And, people value different things. Like, they like different colors. They like different president candidates. They like different things. And vive la différence in some degree. And then as they get older and you can layer in this is helping the planet not overheat, you can layer that on when they can understand the difference. When kids are too little, they don't know why they're reading these stories about these beautiful little bunnies and chickens and things, and people are eating them in stews. That's a disconnect that, what's that book? Why do we love dogs, eat and bear cows, whatever that is?
Dr. Melanie Joy.
Yeah. It's like, that's a big concept of how have we constructed this sense of, oh, it's okay to kill this and eat that, but to adore this and love this fur and give this thing a grave and have pet insurance for this thing, but then just slaughter these things by the millions. It's such an interesting disconnect. And luckily our kids never had to wrestle with it because they've always been plant-based. So.
Right. Yeah, no, that's true. And then also, I guess there's a whole conversation of how information can really affect the way that you live and inspire you in different ways, because, 13 years ago, we didn't know, I'd say 3/4 of the things that we know now. Right. So it was being introduced to it at the right time in our life where we could actually hear it,
right,
and begin to absorb it and apply it. So that's, I don't think, and you got to explain to them, it's not that their parents want them to, they're not there yet. They just don't necessarily absorb the information the way that we have already.
And, for over the years, since 1983 or 4, we have consistently, practically daily had stories of people who have changed how they eat, like you, and their life has been totally changed. Yeah. We have so many patient stories that it would take a whole book, more than a book.
No, they're endless. They're endless. Our kids, we've got 3 kids all in college. One just graduated, and her roommate for years, knew she ate plant-based and whatever. And her friend would sometimes eat with her, sometimes not. Her mother texted me the other day, like, oh my God, my neighbor is on your diet. They eat this way. People do actually do this. And I'm thinking, yeah, like we weren't lying. It's like, wait a minute. She had to call me and tell me, you don't understand. He's so healthy now. I'm like, yeah, I understand. That's the way it works. Like, yeah, like my daughter's been eating this way with your daughter for 5 years. Like, okay. I'm not dismissing it, but you only hear it when you're ready. And sometimes the messenger looks like your neighbor.
And then we got an email
interview for us.
No.
It's we're having a conversation.
Okay. I wanted to be aware of that.
We got an email the other day from somebody. She said, my husband and I have been plant-based. We're vegan. My husband has listed all his problems. She said, well, the only thing he does is he does eat 1 egg a day. He has coconut milk ice cream, soy-based. She went on listing all those little things that he did, which were like, oh my goodness. Just stop that list and you're cured.
Yeah.
But people think what they're doing is okay when it's crazy.
And then sometimes it takes people doing it and stopping to do it to see how they feel a couple of weeks after they have put some of those processed foods back in or have put a little bit of those animal products back in. And in a sense, it's not necessarily a bad thing because it gets people back on track again. And they realize, oh, I did feel so much better, or I can feel so much better again, which is really helpful as well, because it can be difficult depending on where you live in the world and what kind of support you have, just in different states or different cities, it can change completely as well. So sometimes just having that third party, having you look at the list of what they do eat and saying, okay, here's the list of what you shouldn't eat for the next 30 days, right? You could feel the difference in a week. You could feel the difference in a couple of days.
Absolutely.
So this book, we're super exciting. We're super excited for it to come out. So is that what you've been up to over the last couple of years? Tell us what's been going on.
We were so lucky during COVID because we got the project
literally landed in our lap March 7th, 2020. And everybody understands what that means. It's like, that's like a week before the doors closed on everything. And
in fact, it was just the same
weekend
that Jane had her yearly women's conference, and she had it in person.
And people were doing like the elbow hello, and we didn't know about the mask. We thought it was like a contact thing, and we were bowing to each other.
Everybody came. It was full, amazing. And then But anyway,
And then
from
whoosh,
then on, we worked on this, and we live next door.
And this is called, because we haven't introduced it yet.
Yeah, do it.
Called Be Plant-Based Woman Warrior. Live fierce, stay bold, eat delicious.
Oh, for anybody not on YouTube right now, you got to hop over to YouTube and see this. Amazing. So tell us what people can find inside. I'm assuming it's geared at women.
Yes and no. I mean, anybody, of course, anybody can.
All the recipes for
And everybody.
Everybody.
But the reason that do you want to hear about the book or why it's for, what's your question? I was interrupting you.
Tell us about the book.
The book.
Tell us what people will find inside.
What you'll find inside is it really is, I have to say it again, this is a tip of the hat to my mom, because my dad in 1983-45 came home with this theory about plant-based approach to disease, to prevent and reversal of disease. And that was heart disease. And he saw it happening with his breast cancer patients as well as, but get much faster results with his cardiac patients. Anyway, he had this theory. And my dad can't really make toast. Like, he can make his own cereal in the morning because he has oats, but he puts oat milk on it and he eats it, doesn't cook it. So if my mom had not picked up this new coat of arms, this new theory, and run with it, it would have gotten nowhere. So she gave this theory legs when there was no internet, and there was no, like here in the States, there was no, Whole Foods kind of markets. Or
it's not exactly true. There were people on the West Coast. Where are you?
Canada. They're up in Toronto.
Yeah, yes. I know. I remember.
Yeah.
But there were people on the West Coast, like John McDougall, who was doing this, but
there was no internet, so you didn't know that.
So we didn't have good communication, and California was like going to Europe back then. So we just had to start from scratch. We had no friends who ate this way. I was teaching sixth grade English. Two of the vocab words that I gave my sixth graders back in the 80s and 90s were vegan and vegetarian, and they did not know what they were. Can you imagine somebody today at 12 not knowing those words? No.
So this book is a tip of the hat to her for really being at the core of this movement for us as a family, and all 20 of us, as you've heard, eat this way. But also, I live next door to Anne, and she is my daily dose of hell yeah. I mean, she's, like you said, you met her. She was raking and helping everyone park, and then running them up to where here, and then doing this and cooking all day, cleaning, taking out the garbage. Can't be stopped. I mean, this isn't the kind of things you want to try to medicate her from doing. You want her to be like, I want to take the medicine she's taking, and they're on no meds. She's just on plants. So it's my daily dose of, this is what I'm going to do. And the third thing is, to be honest, plants powerfully support women. And I could go into from breast, body, bowels, uterine, pelvic floor, the works. But also, I really do feel like women, especially in the States, I'm sure Canada is very similar, but if you're a woman born in America, you're kind of born into this sense of like food, body, image, pressure, shame, shape, so you have this feeling. And I know I was a nationally ranked swimmer for age 14 on up, and my brothers were kind of the same. And I was getting, bigger and curvier, and I had struggled with like, why am I like, my brothers we're all training the exact same amount and we're eating the exact same amount. And I'm just, this layer of frosting going, and I just, they weren't thinking for a moment, not 1 second about their bodies or what they're eating or how much or any of that stuff. And I was just, I could be consumed by it for, a day, a night, a morning, a week, just my identity wrapped into this feeling. Anyway, once we started eating plant-based, I was about, 18-ish, 19-ish, 20. Anyway, when they started going on this, it really helped level out my sense of body and self and eating and food. And I mean, just a long story short, I got going on plant-based eating, and I lost all that. Like, we don't have a scale. I don't count steps. I don't count calories. I don't count portions, none, because I learned from the master. The burden that so many women have, I'm like, be a plant-based woman warrior, and you can just be free to be who you are and live on every other channel of your identity and not worry about this thing that drags you down. Actually, I had one friend who started eating whole food plant-based, and she said, Jane, I can't tell you how good I feel. Mostly how I feel in my mind. I've lost food head. She's like, I would wake up and I'd be like, oh, what am I going to do today? What am I going to wear today? What am I going to eat today? How can I figure out how to make it forward with food and my pants and myself? And this food head all day. She said it went away because she could eat and be active, and she, poop so much. She just felt so not burdened by it all. So I love all these reasons why it benefits women, and it's not always talked about. And I kind of just put it in the introduction, loaded it up. I know you guys were there and you heard us talk about Kuva one time, but we talked about how it benefits from front to back, all the goods, and on and on and on.
Taking a short break just to remind you that there are so many women like you out there who are suffering from hormone disorders, autoimmune diseases, their inflammation system and their immune system are out of control. And there are lots of things that we can do above and beyond plant-based diet to get it back on track. If you would like to discuss your issues with me and see how I might be able to help you, please reach out at info@planttrainers.com. It's just so humbling and wonderful to know that we're helping so many people, and maybe we can help you or someone you love. And now back to the show.
Can we just clarify? We're talking about plant-based, but
Yep.
there's a difference between plant-based and whole food plant-based. And I think a lot of people miss that point. So if you could just clarify that, it would be great.
I think one of the biggest pitfalls today for people who are going vegan or even plant-based is the vegan junk food world. And it is frightening because, in fact, I just saw an article the other day where it showed that people who were vegan, plant-based had worse health problems than people who are eating the American diet, because it is just such concentrated oil, soy protein isolates, just stuff that you don't want to eat. I mean, the key thing to me to tell people is to read the ingredients of what you're eating. And if you know that you're not eating meat and you're not eating dairy and you're not eating oil, then you're going to look at the ingredients in Beyond Meat and see, this is something else. This is from another planet. It may help the animals, but it's not going to help the humans.
Yeah. And go ahead.
I was going to say it's definitely gotten more complicated in the last 10 years to be plant-based. At the beginning, we were like, oh, there's nothing to eat other than what you make yourself, right? You can't go to a store. There weren't a lot of accidentally vegan products.
You don't get in trouble when you have to make it.
Right. You make it yourself. Restaurants weren't doing plant-based or vegan menus, and there weren't a lot of accidental processed foods that were vegan. So you were kind of stuck making everything from scratch yourself, which was definitely a good thing. I mean, it's time consuming at times, but definitely a good thing. And once you get into your routine, it's a lot less time consuming. But now they've taken plant-based and they've marketed it as a healthy way where really it's just lack of animal products. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's healthy. So it makes people more confused, and it makes it harder to abstain as well.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me so happy that we have whole food plant-based as a name, because it's been co-opted to make, like you just said, for companies to make some money.
Yeah, we didn't need that 10 years ago.
I'm glad people make tofu. I'm glad people make tamari. I'm glad someone makes maple syrup. So we eat some processed stuff, but really, I mean, today we cook so much food. It's just not processed junk.
Right.
Yeah. It's just when people go plant-based and they say, hey, but I'm not losing that weight that you said you lost when you did it. What's going on? And then you look at what they're consuming, and they're buying the processed plant-based foods, and there it is. It's full of oil and all those ingredients you can't pronounce. And no wonder it's not doing well for you.
So let's make people hungry for the whole food plant-based. What are some of the recipes and your favorite recipes that we're going to find?
I'm going to tell you that the best thing you can do to cook with people is never ask them their favorite.
No, but you can ask me. You can ask me. No, she can ask me.
I can ask Anne. There you go. Anne, what's your favorite?
How
can you choose? It's like maybe your favorite child.
No, you wait till I speak.
Oh,
Can I guess?
Yeah.
Is it still the steamed spinach with lemon juice on the pumpernickel toast over the kitchen sink?
No, but that's good. That's great. You're right. Gosh, I got to have that again. I love my breakfast, and it's in the book, and I have it every day, and I love it because I get in. I know that I get in first thing in the morning, all the things that I want to have, so that if I don't do perfectly the rest of the day, I feel I have started out strongly.
It's a good strategy.
Okay, I can tell you something. When we were making this book, and it was during COVID, so we were like, "Can we go to the store?" And I was like, "I'm going to go to the store for my parents, and I think I can do a mask, gloves, just a hat, glasses." I mean, it was just crazy. So we didn't have great ingredients, which is sort of awesome in a way. Like you're working with just basics, and then things weren't available. When we were making the book, we knew at one point we were on the right track because we had about 5-6 breakfasts. We had about 7 lunches, we had some like great build your own dinnery kind of ideas going, but we had 44 desserts.
Wow.
So we knew we were on the right track. We're like, all right, this is a book for women. We've got the dessert section like dialed in. We got to work on the rest of the food.
And the best part of COVID and the dessert section is that, so my husband and I started watching TV. So we would at night be watching something. And I was feeling like a Pavlov dog because if I could even sense that Jane was at the door, I knew she was there with another version of one of her
out of sight
brownies, because she made 12 different versions. And we simply couldn't wait to try these different versions.
Look at these lemon squares. Like we made lemon squares. It was just so.
And guess what?
What do you think? Okay, have you ever had a lemon square?
Yes.
Okay, you know how they have like a foundation of some sort of shortbread or something. We got raisin. We got a raisin pecan crust. That's going. And then there's a layer of lemon like goo, and then maybe a little bit of white frosting or something on top, or just lemon goo. What would you make the lemon goo out of? Like I miss lemon squares. When I was a kid, I used to like them. So I'm like, how can we make them? What would make it gooey? What would be a good lemon goo?
Well, dates.
No, lemon, but kind of translucent.
You're making me think too hard.
I don't know. I think I'm thinking too hard too. I don't know.
Lemon.
Yes,
yeah, lemon.
2 points for you. Yeah. What else?
The
aquafaba.
Yes, the chickpea sauce water.
Right. I like how you're thinking, but you know what we use? We have this interview has to move on. So, besides, I just took a ton of lemon, some maple syrup, and I used the day before. I would cook it and I'd put it in the fridge. Oatmeal.
Oh,
really?
It was kind of like and I would blend it. So I didn't have any chunks or anything. I was like not steel cut, but just regular oatmeal. Lemon, sweet.
It was so good.
It just carries the sweet, and it's kind of like a thick. translucent thing.
And there's nutrients in there. And I was going to say that probably a lot of your desserts can double up as a quick breakfast or a quick lunch at times.
Look how yellow that is. And it's like a lemon square.
That is really yellow.
Looks great.
Yeah. And what's the frosting part?
Well, the tofu lemons that we always do. I'm sure you guys do all the time. Maple syrup, tofu, silken tofu.
Yeah. Amazing. Great.
Yum.
So yum. So what would be a good lunch that people might find in there?
Oh, we've got all kinds of lunches in there. Like
so many ideas for open-faced sandwiches.
Yeah. And one thing I love is that we have, it's called a Brooks Bagel. And then I was hiking during COVID because what else did you do? So I was walking through the woods and I ran into a neighbor friend who was out in the woods. And I don't know if you have them in Canada, but they have ramps. Do you have ramps that grow? You know what a ramp is?
I don't know.
It's like
I'll have to look it up.
A little bit of a leafy, almost like
a little leaf.
Imagine a chive that was not a tube, but a chive that was actually more a leaf shape. It's the exact same flavor.
Okay.
Like, so it wasn't
it's like a stunted, it's very
oniony. It's like allium. It's that family. So he was out picking ramps and he had he took a sandwich partially constructed, and I was like, what is this? And I'm making a cookbook. So he takes a whole wheat bagel, puts a thin layer of miso paste, like a thin layer of miso, like not thick, but just enough salty. And then he puts some baked tofu, I think, or some spinach. I want to reconstruct it. But anyway, avocado, maybe onion, just yummy, yummy, yummy fillings. And then he would put some fresh ramps, those leaves of like an oniony flavor on this bagel. And it was just this total savory, delicious thing in the woods. I went home so hungry to make his ramp bagel. I'm going to try to find a picture of it for you.
Also, one really fun sandwich. Our son Ted was working in Colorado.
Oh, yes.
And he had a sandwich that he told us about. And it is called an apple lidded sandwich. And you take one piece of bread with hummus, and then you can really put anything in between: kale, green onions, cilantro, of whatever you want. But the lid.
And that's the Brooks bagel. I just found it.
But the lid is an apple slice, and you put that on top. And you won't believe how good that apple is. It gives it a wetness, a sweetness, and
a lid.
And a lid.
And a crispiness too.
Yes, exactly.
Everybody wants crispy.
So
and
surprising.
fresh.
It's so surprising because the rest of the sandwich doesn't have to be spectacular, and it becomes spectacular because of that thin apple slice.
That sounds delicious. And that reminds me when my son first went gluten-free. And again, we're talking about 12 years ago, before gluten-free was really a known thing. I had no idea what to feed him without poisoning him more. So I would make him little sandwiches of hummus and peanut butter and things like that. And apples was his bread until I could figure out what I could replace for him. That brings me back to those days for sure. So tell us a little bit about where people can follow to see what's happening as you ramp up to, the book is out today, the day that this is coming out. So where can people find out more about the book, and where do you want people to go to buy the book as well?
It's available
You can
online.
pre-order it online right now.
I think you can order it, anywhere, like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, blah, 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 other places. And if you can support your local bookstore, if they carry it, do that. I mean, a lot of our local stores, I know we're in Cleveland, and that's where we're doing a presentation tonight, meaning August 23rd at a local library. And hopefully there'll be some people there. I think we'll bring some food if you're going to show up, if we're allowed to. And we have events going on around it. We've got 2 events, like you guys came to one at the Knob. We have an event just about, be a plant-based woman warrior. We're going to make food and taste food and do activities from the book. And I say activities because if you follow on social media or even on our YouTube, you see that my mom is so active, and it's amazing. She even has a torn rotator cuff, and she's still doing all this stuff. Nordic skiing, she fell, and just one portion of her rotator cuff is still, everything else works, but just one move is still like,
I heard you're pulling tires.
We pull tires. So she's not just the acid queen, she's now also the drag queen. And we drag tires around. And every summer we have a camp for plant-based women warriors called Well Now Camp. Well Now. And we had a great circle of cement around where our camp was taking place. So we had 2 teams, here and here, and each was dragging a tire. And they went here, and they traded with their other team member, and then they came up. So there was all around the circle going half a circle each person. It was a riot. This woman had a broken toe, and she's like, the reason I signed up that came for camp is I wanted to drag a tire. I'm going to run with my broken toe. So she was like, with her broken toe, running with it. So we're going to do some tire dragging. In September 17th, we're having an event for plant-based women warriors who want to drag tires and whatnot. Actually, we're going to be eating mostly food and going on a little hike. And,
it's not a good place for dragging tires.
It actually is
because it's all uphill. And that's so hard.
No, we'll do it.
But if there's uphill, then there's downhill.
Exactly.
You could get in the tire and roll down
But uphill is hard.
So we have some of these events that we do this fall. Like in November, we have one. September, we have one. Every March, we have a women's event. And that's been virtual lately just because of COVID. But who knows if we're going to be live maybe again this year at some point. And then in June, we have a camp for women who just want to be active. And our age range is late 20s I would say basically 40s to their 80s or 40s to 70s, but we've had people in their 80s. We had a 91-year-old join us.
Wow.
Here. She
Wow.
didn't do a ton, but she was there.
She was there.
She was there. Being there is an accomplishment on its own. For
it's good to be seen.
Yeah, exactly. So where would you like people to go to learn more about this? You have Crile Esselstyn on Instagram. Is there a website as well?
Yeah, cileesselstyn.com is a good website because it has all the links to our activities that are things coming up. And Crile Esselstyn underscores Crile_Esselstyn_RN, which my kids make fun of me because RN, obviously means nurse or registered nurse in the States, but it also means right now.
Right now.
I'm Crile Esselstyn right now.
You are.
And anyway, so that's Instagram, and that's the best two places I'd say, because I don't really have a chance to get out on YouTube. We have our YouTube channel. Part of why we're so scattered right now is we just finished filming 9 recipes for our upcoming YouTube, sort of into this rest of the summer and the fall. Some of them are recipes for the upcoming book. Some of them are
tomorrow.
Some coming up tomorrow. So we're a little bit frazzled, but our YouTube channel is also under my name, which it sounds kind of braggadocio, all this Jane stuff.
Well, I don't have any presence on the internet. I don't.
We're all over the internet. She doesn't.
So
you signed me up for.
Let's get you on Snapchat.
Facebook. My grandson signed me up for Facebook, but I don't know how to get there. And
you know what? I think that you're better off spending your time pulling your tires and Nordic skiing and raking leaves and cooking. Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
I would say you're making a huge impact for many people, and definitely a lot that you don't even realize or know. And the truth is it Be a Plant-Based Woman Warrior? Is that the name of the book? So I want to just say that it definitely doesn't only impact women. And if you're not a woman and you're listening to this show, it's the lifestyle that I think helps everybody. And it's not just women. I know you're targeting them, but look, it changed my life. Dr. Esselstyn's book, Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease, was the instigator for me that got me through what I went through. And I'm so grateful for your family and all you're doing for so many people, and for spending some time with us today on the Plant Trainers podcast.
I'm glad you said that, because I wanted to add in that this book is not just for women at all. And part of what my whole build up there was to say that the majority of people who do tend to buy food, prepare food, serve food to themselves, to their families, to their communities, to their homes, to their temples, to their churches, to whatever you're part of, tends to be women. But it is not all. And if you're a part of a family and you're supportive of the person who's cooking, if it's your father, your mother, your brother, your uncle, whoever, to support them, these recipes are awesome for anybody. And yeah, we just went with the women thing kind of because it was also fun.
It definitely is fun. And we need more sisterhood, and we need other women building women up and supporting each other, because different women are in different situations, and it's easier to find your own people that way. We appreciate everything that you've done for our family, and by proxy, all of our listeners, because this podcast would not be here without your family, because Adam would not have found what he found. And we're just so grateful for the two of you spending time with us today and everything that you're doing. So thank you.
I do want to say, Adam, that I think, do you cook, Adam?
Sometimes, yeah, a little bit.
I mean, I find that today, all the men in our lives, and I'm speaking lots of our children and our grandchildren's partners or whatever, they all cook. I mean, we have 4 children, 1 girl, 3 boys. All 3 boys are cook. I mean, and in fact, it's crazy how they cook. And so I think that it is true that women are often the leaders, but men are out there just as strong a force.
Yeah,
they definitely are.
Amazing.
Yay for Adam.
Thank you.
For Adam.
Yay for you.
Adam actually spent the first
time. That's good.
So he cooked the majority, I'd say the first 15 years of us being together, married, living together, what have you.
And then you just took over.
And then, so after I had
that's the thing. That's the trouble with women. Because they do take over.
I took over. I regret it every day.
They're trying to finish the sentence, and we're trying to finish it for you. So go ahead.
I try not to live without regret, with regret, but I do regret taking over the cooking. But when I left teaching and I left the 9-to-5 job, and my job became more flexible, I kind of took over in the kitchen. We could get
the majority of it.
But he taught me all I knew. All I know.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, you guys. And
you're welcome.
Hey, you are both wonderful.
Thank you all so much for listening to this edition of the Plant Trainers Podcast. We want to make sure that you subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platform.
We really appreciate the feedback we receive from you. Every time we get a 5-star rating or review on iTunes from one of our fans, it really helps other people find us, just like you did.
Thanks so much to our patrons. To become a patron, visit us at patreon.com/planttrainers. Even supporting us with $1 really makes a difference in the quality of the show.
And don't forget to connect with us on Instagram and Twitter. Our handle is @PlantTrainers. Like Plant Trainers on Facebook, join our newsletter, and check out our website at planttrainers.com for awesome recipes, a list of our services, and of course, our latest podcast.
We encourage you to email your questions to info@planttrainers.com so that we can help you improve your quality of life through nutrition and fitness.
So we hope we've inspired you today. Join us again next time and have a healthy day. Or is that too corny?
It's a little cheesy.